Let's be honest, who doesn't like Burson's design language? Well, it's become one of the things that the brand is most recognizable for, I would say. But there's also another great thing about their products, which is, of course, the sound and the possibilities. And overall, spoiler alert, this is a great piece of kit. However, there are a few caveats that I think you should be aware about. Let's get to it. This bad boy here is the Playmate 2, however, the version I'm reviewing here is with the V6 Vivid op amps, so sound-wise it is more alike to the deluxe version than it is to the standard version. Also, I am using the Burson supercharger for this thing, so keep that in mind as well. The Playmate 2 is a desktop DAC amp sporting an ESS 9038 chip, as well as some Class A 3W amplification. 3 watts in Class A is of course a lot, but don't expect it to drive like the most high-end headphones, the most power-hungry stuff. Of course, it's not meant for that kind of gear, but within its price range, it does pretty great. Let's admire the build quality of this thing for a bit. This is a fully aluminum chassis. It's pretty light, which is honestly great because, you know, this thing looks quite heavy and it's very sturdy and it really inspires confidence, which this is just something that I always appreciate. The Playmate 2 is only single-ended. In the back you have the RCA connectors and in the front you have a 6.3mm jack as well as a 3.5mm with a microphone input, making it all the more better for gaming headsets and stuff alike. Well, not that you would need 3 watts of Class A amplification for a gaming headset, but nevertheless it's pretty great to have it here as an extra option. This thing also sports an OLED display in the front. It's used to indicate the volume, the input, stuff like that. Only basic stuff here, it's not as, you know, complicated and elaborate as the higher end Burson stuff, but it does the job very well. Basically anything you would expect from an OLED display in a lower end, because this is a lower end Burson device, well, it's all there, so I don't find it necessary for it to do any more than it does already. As far as digital inputs go, you have two options, a USB-C port and a Toslink input, and it's good that they introduced USB-C to their amplifiers. However, there is one thing that I should talk about right now. So far I have had two Burson devices that I have spent some extended time with. One of these is the Playmate 2 that we're talking about right now, and the other one is the 3X GT Conductor, which is probably like the highest end of a DAC amp that Burson has in their lineup. So we get like both ends of the spectrum. We got the low end, theoretically low end Burson Playmate 2 and the Conductor GT, and both of them have had some issues when connecting to my Android phone or Android tablet via the USB-C port. I've had to kind of juggle some cables around in some, you know, a few different configurations, and it wasn't as easy to use as I would have liked to, and it feels a little bit janky. And as much as I love the inclusion of USB-C, I think that this is the department that could use a little bit of refinement. How does this thing sound? Well, you can really hear that there are 3 watts of Class A amplification here when you use headphones like HE1000 SE, which are overall less demanding, because the sound overall gets way denser, more punchy, and more kind of physical. It adds a touch of warmth to the overall presentation, which is pretty nice if you have some more cold sounding headphones, and at the same time it doesn't like muddy up the entire mix. The region where I feel the biggest difference between the Playmate 2 and other amplifiers is definitely the bass. It gains a kind of a sense of grandiosity, and overall it seems like a huge, powerful and punchy presentation. I'm really glad that this happens because I like a touch more bass in my HE1000 SE, and this is a very much appreciated change towards the better. Despite the great increase in size, there is no loss of control to be had, which is great once again. If you like listening to stuff like electronic or hip-hop music, then the slight elevation in the bass will definitely bring a smile to your face and overall enhance the fun factor of the listening session. The mids, as I've mentioned before, gain a little bit of warmth, and I feel they also gain a little bit of intimacy. This doesn't mean that the soundstage is suddenly smaller or more claustrophobic, but I feel like it has something to do with the overall scale of the sound. As I mentioned before, the presentation here is quite large, quite grandiose, and I'm pretty sure it impacted the mids as well. Well, now I'm full of hair everywhere, so sorry about that, but I'm sure you will appreciate the guest appearance that you've just seen. I think the best way to describe the treble in these headphones is to talk about a headphone that may get a bit too spicy in the treble at times. For some people it would be something like an Aria V2, and in my opinion it's a perfect example of a good match between an amplifier and a headphone. Here I believe that the additional warmth that you get from the amplifier kind of helps to tone down the spiciness and the painfulness of the treble as it might sometimes get. I haven't found any deterioration or decrease in the quality of details or the air or the overall kind of spatial presentation of the headphones, which overall, combined with the Playmate's ability to kind of tone down the spiky treble, I think it's a combination that is going to benefit some headphones pretty well and some headphones exceptionally well, like the Aria V2 I've mentioned before. I remember back in the day when I owned the Aria V2, I wanted something to kind of squeeze out more from the mids, to get some more color from them, and at the same time tone down the high end a little bit so that, you know, it becomes a bit easier to listen to on the long sessions. Like, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that headphone and I think its qualities are amazing. However, I think something like the Playmate 2 would be a perfect match for that kind of sound signature that the Aria V2 provides. When describing the Soundstage capabilities of this amplifier, I would have to say that it's quite neutral, like it hasn't altered the soundstage of my HE1000 SE that much, which in my opinion is okay because, well, it could have always gone the other way and deteriorated it or made it feel more claustrophobic. Something that makes me appreciate the Playmate 2 even more is that it kind of carries the sound DNA that you may know from some higher end Burson models. Specifically, the elevation of the warmth and physicality of the sound without deteriorating the technical aspects like air and detail. And overall, I have to admit the Playmate 2 at its price point of about $750 for the deluxe version is a pretty good piece of kit that you should definitely go ahead and try out if you don't plan on driving the Susvaras or the 1266 kind of, the most power hungry stuff. Apart from that, if you want an all-in-one solution for your desktop that's sleek, minimalistic and has a pretty great sound and power, then go ahead and check out the Playmate 2. That is going to do it for today's review, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.